I'm dying alone, not from cancer or heart failure, but from a choice I made 43 years ago on a Tuesday afternoon in September. The kind of Tuesday where the sun still felt warm, but the leaves had already started their betrayal, turning colors they had no business turning. I chose her, the woman with the jasmine perfume, and the way she laughed at my jokes like they were the funniest damn thing she'd ever heard. I chose her over Margaret, and Margaret never forgave me. Neither did God, apparently. They found me last week collapsed near the mailbox. The neighbor's kid, some teenage boy with acne and untied shoes. He stood over me asking if I needed help, and all I could think was, Margaret would have known what to do. She would have checked my pulse with those steady fingers that used to button my shirts every Sunday before church. But that kid just stood there, terrified, holding his phone like it might explode. Before Rebecca, before the jasmine and the lies, there was Margaret and our yellow house on Maple Street. We bought it in '68 for $18,000, a fortune back then. The kitchen had these mint green tiles that Margaret hated, said they reminded her of hospital bathrooms, but we couldn't afford to replace them. So she bought a rug, red and gold with tassels on the edges. Every morning I'd watch her bare feet cross those tiles, the cold making her toes curl up. Then the relief when she stepped onto that rug. I remember the weight of her hand in mine when we danced in the living room to Sinatra. No music playing most times, just her humming off key while I held her waist. She fit perfectly there, like God had measured us together and said, yes, this works. Her hair smelled like Prel shampoo, and sometimes, on Fridays, when she'd bake, like vanilla and butter. But then I started noticing things. Small things I told myself didn't matter. The first sign was her silence. Margaret used to fill every room with words, talking about the neighbors, the price of milk, some article she'd read in Reader's Digest. But around March of '82, the words stopped. She'd sit at the kitchen table, stirring her coffee long after the sugar had dissolved, just stirring, round and round, the spoon hitting the porcelain with that tiny clink that made my jaw tighten. I'd ask her what was wrong, and she'd say nothing in a voice that meant everything. The second sign was the bedroom door. For 30 years, it stayed open at night, always. Margaret said closed doors made her feel trapped, reminded her of when her father locked her in the basement as punishment. But one night in April, I came home late. Another business dinner that was really just drinks with Rebecca. And that door was shut, not slammed, just closed. Quiet and final as a casket lid. The third sign was the leather jacket. My brown bomber jacket, the one I'd worn since the Air Force. I left it draped over the dining room chair one Saturday, and when I came back, it was hung in the closet, zipped up. Margaret had never zipped it before. She knew I hated when the zipper got stuck. But there it was, zipped tight, like she was trying to seal something inside, or keep something out. I ignored it all, told myself she was going through menopause or having one of her moods. The truth is, I didn't want to look closer, because if I looked, I'd have to see what I was doing to her. And Rebecca made it so easy not to look. She was 28 and thought I was fascinating. She didn't care that my back hurt or that I snored. She just wanted me. At least that's what I told myself. What I didn't know was that the worst part, the part that would hollow me out like a rotted tree, was still coming. It was a Thursday in June when everything shattered. Not a Tuesday like the poets would write, but a Thursday with humidity so thick you could taste the metal in the air before the storm came. I'd told Margaret I was going to Cleveland for a conference. 3 days, I said. Hotel by the airport. Boring seminars about industrial equipment. She'd nodded, folding my shirts with those precise hospital corners she'd learned from her mother. Didn't ask questions, didn't even look at me, just folded and folded and folded. But Cleveland was a lie. Rebecca and I were going to her sister's cabin in Pennsylvania, 2 hours north, hidden in the woods where nobody knew my name, or that I'd promised before God to forsake all others. I came home early to grab my blood pressure medication, the bottle I'd forgotten on the bathroom counter in my rush to escape. My hands were shaking as I turned the key, practicing the excuse in my head. Traffic was lighter than expected. Thought I'd save gas money staying home tonight. The house was silent. Margaret's car sat in the driveway, but no lights were on inside even though it was past 6. I remember the porch boards creaking under my feet, each step sounding like an accusation. The front door swung open, unlocked, which Margaret never did after that break-in on Porter Street last winter. That's when I heard it, crying. Not the soft sniffling kind, the kind that comes from somewhere deep, like an animal caught in a trap. It was coming from our bedroom. I walked down the hallway, and the wood floor suddenly felt like it stretched for miles. Each photograph on the wall, our wedding, Margaret's mother, the beach trip to Cape Cod, they all seemed to be watching me, judging. The air smelled wrong, not like Margaret's usual lavender sachets, but like nothing, like the house itself had given up. The bedroom door was open a crack, just enough to see inside. Margaret sat on the floor beside our bed. Not on it, on the floor, with her back against the mattress and her knees pulled to her chest. She was holding something. At first I couldn't tell what. The evening light was too dim. But then she turned it over in her hands, and I saw my brown bomber jacket, the one from the closet. She had it pressed against her face, breathing into the leather, like she was trying to find something that used to be there. "You smell like her," she said, without looking up. Her voice was so quiet, I almost didn't hear it. "Every time you come home, you smell like jasmine." I bought a candle, the same scent, to make sure I wasn't crazy. Lit it in the kitchen last week while you were working late. It was her. The world slowed down then. I could hear everything. The clock ticking in the hallway, a car passing outside, my own heartbeat hammering against my ribs like it wanted to escape my chest. "Margaret, don't." She finally looked at me. Her eyes were swollen, red-rimmed, but what destroyed me was the emptiness behind them. Not anger, not even hurt anymore, just resignation. "I've known for 8 months, since your birthday, when she called the house and hung up before saying anything. Since I found the restaurant receipt in your coat pocket, the one for 2 dinners you said was a business lunch. Since you stopped touching me like you meant it." She stood up slowly, her knees cracking. 53 years old, and she moved like she was 80. The jacket fell from her hands onto the floor between us. "I kept waiting," she continued, "for you to choose me, to wake up one morning and realize what you were destroying. But you didn't, did you? Here's the thing about moments like this. They give you a choice. The right choice is obvious to everyone watching from outside. You fall to your knees, you beg forgiveness, you burn every bridge to that other woman, and spend the rest of your life proving you're worthy of a second chance. But I didn't do that, because standing there, looking at Margaret's broken face, all I could think was, she knows, which means I don't have to hide anymore. The relief of that, of not having to lie, not having to check my clothes for perfume, not having to remember which story I'd told. It felt like freedom. And underneath the relief was something uglier. Resentment. Resentment that Margaret had trapped me in this moment of accountability, that she'd been watching me, collecting evidence like some detective instead of just asking me directly. "I'm going to Pennsylvania," I heard myself say. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "I'll be back Sunday night. We can talk then." Margaret's face did something I'll never forget. It didn't crumble or twist with anger. It just closed, like a door locking from the inside. She nodded once, bent down, picked up my jacket, and handed it to me. "You'll need this," she said. "It gets cold in the mountains." I should have stayed, should have thrown the jacket across the room and grabbed her hands and said, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, please let me fix this." But Rebecca was waiting. Rebecca, who didn't know about my hemorrhoids or the way I cried at the end of It's a Wonderful Life, or that I'd failed my father by dropping out of engineering school. Rebecca, who still thought I was worth choosing. So I took the jacket, put it on, and walked out. The worst part? Margaret called after me from the doorway. Just 3 words, so soft I almost missed them. "I loved you." Loved, past tense. I drove to Pennsylvania anyway, spent 3 days pretending everything was fine, while Rebecca talked about maybe moving to Arizona, starting fresh somewhere sunny. But I couldn't stop seeing Margaret's face, that closed, locked expression that meant I'd killed something that would never grow back. When I returned on Sunday, Margaret was gone. Not her clothes or her jewelry or her photograph albums. Just her. The house still smelled like her shampoo. The red and gold rug still lay on the kitchen floor. But Margaret, the woman who used to dance with me to invisible music, had vanished. She left a note on the kitchen table. One sentence in her careful handwriting: "I won't watch you choose her again." But here's what I realized too late. She'd already given me years of chances. Every time she stirred that coffee in silence, every time she closed the bedroom door, every time she hung up my jacket, hoping I'd notice, hoping I'd come back to her. And I never did. 43 years later, I'm staring at that same brown bomber jacket hanging in my closet. It's moth-eaten now, the leather cracked like old skin. I haven't worn it since 1983. Can't bring myself to throw it away either. This morning I woke up at 4:47 a.m., same time every day since my prostate started failing. The apartment is quiet except for the refrigerator's hum and the upstairs neighbor's footsteps. I used to live in a house with mint green tiles and a woman who hummed off-key. Now I live in a 1-bedroom with beige carpet and nobody. I shuffle to the bathroom, holding the wall for balance. The mirror shows me what I've become. 81 years old with liver spots on my hands and a face that's forgotten how to smile properly. My teeth are fake, my hair is gone, but my eyes, they still remember everything I wish they'd forget. Rebecca left me in 1994, 11 years after I chose her over Margaret. Turns out jasmine perfume and laughter aren't enough when you're 56 and impotent and haunted by ghosts. She said I was emotionally unavailable, which is a polite way of saying I never stopped loving the woman I'd destroyed. She married a dentist from Phoenix, sends me Christmas cards sometimes with photos of grandchildren I'll never meet. I tried finding Margaret, hired a private investigator in '97 when the loneliness got so bad I couldn't sleep. Found out she'd moved to Oregon, remarried a widower named Thomas, a retired teacher with kind eyes in the photograph. They had 13 years together before he died of a stroke. The investigator said Margaret seemed happy, went to book clubs, volunteered at a literacy center, learned to paint watercolors of mountains. She died in 2019, fell asleep and didn't wake up. Her obituary said she was beloved by many and mentioned 2 stepdaughters and 5 step-grandchildren who mourned her. My name didn't appear anywhere, not even as a footnote. I wasn't invited to the funeral, the kitchen table where she left that note. I sold it during my 3rd move, but I kept the note. It's in my wallet right now, folded so many times the creases have worn through the paper. I won't watch you choose her again. Sometimes I take it out and hold it under the lamp, tracing her handwriting with my thumb, like I'm trying to reach back through time and grab her hand before she walks away. You want to know what 4 decades of regret looks like? It looks like birthday cakes from the grocery store with "Happy Birthday" written in generic frosting because nobody knows you well enough to spell your name. It looks like doctor's appointments where they ask for your emergency contact and you have to write none. It looks like Sunday mornings when church bells ring and you remember dancing in a living room with a woman who fit perfectly in your arms. And now your arms are empty and always will be. I chose passion over partnership, excitement over loyalty, a woman who made me feel young over the woman who made me feel home. And here's what nobody tells you about that choice. Passion fades, excitement dulls, but home is permanent. You can burn it down like I did, but you can't rebuild it, can't buy it back or apologize it back into existence. Once you walk out that door, it locks behind you. Last week when that kid found me by the mailbox, I wasn't getting the mail. I was trying to remember what it felt like to belong somewhere, to have someone who'd notice if you didn't come home. Margaret would have noticed before I even left, would have seen me putting on my shoes and asked where I was going. Not because she was controlling, but because she cared. Now I come and go and nobody sees, nobody cares. The mailbox is just a metal box full of bills and pharmacy coupons. Nothing personal. Nothing that says, someone loves you here. So if you're reading this, if you're watching this, and you have someone who stirs their coffee too long, who closes doors they used to leave open, who stops saying your name the way they used to, pay attention. Those aren't small things. They're everything. They're the house burning down one shingle at a time, while you're too busy smelling jasmine to notice the smoke. Because I promise you, and I've got 81 years of evidence to back this up, the person you betray will survive without you. They'll move to Oregon and learn to paint and find someone with kind eyes who treats them the way you should have. But you'll die alone in a beige apartment, clutching a note in your wallet, finally understanding that the woman you left was the only real thing you ever had. I chose her over my wife. Now I'm waiting to die with nobody to hold my hand.